The docking bay doors hissed open, and Sarah nearly dropped her duffel when she saw who was waiting on the other side. "You're joking," Sarah breathed, staring at the woman in civilian clothes leaning against the railing. "Kessa? Is that actually you?" Kessa turned, and for a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Sarah was across the deck, arms thrown around her older sister's neck, laughing into her shoulder. Kessa staggered back a step, caught herself, and wrapped one thick arm around Sarah's waist to keep them both upright. "You got heavy," Sarah said, muffled against her collarbone. "You got weak," Kessa shot back, and set her down. Both true, probably. Sarah pulled back to actually look at her, and the smile faltered into something more like awe. Kessa had always been the bigger of the two of them. Broader shoulders, thicker bones, the kind of build their mother used to call unfortunate at family gatherings. But this was different. This wasn't big. This was built. The soft place at Kessa's jaw was gone, replaced by a hard line. Her forearms, bare below rolled sleeves, showed the kind of definition that came from years of real labor, not station gym equipment. Even her posture had changed. She stood like something coiled, weight settled low, eyes doing a slow, constant sweep of the room that never quite stopped. "You look like you could bench press the shuttle," said the woman standing a few steps back, arms crossed, dry amusement in her voice, Dovey. Sarah's roommate and unofficially the only friend either of them had ever agreed on. "Good to see you too, Dovey," Kessa said. "Are those muscles, or did you swallow a cargo crate?" Dovey came closer, reached out without asking, and pressed 2 fingers into Kessa's bicep, like she was testing fruit for ripeness. "Okay, that's not fat. That's, what do the humans call it? Gains, gains." Kessa repeated, deadpan, and something in the way she said it made both of them laugh. They fell into step automatically, Sarah on one side, Dovey on the other, the three of them moving through the station's main concourse, the way they used to move through the market district back home. Except now people turned to look. Not at Sarah, at Kessa, at the way she filled out her jacket, at the small scars along her knuckles, at the manner in which she scanned every doorway they passed without seeming to notice she was doing it. "You're doing the thing," Sarah said. "What thing?" "The eyes thing. Like you're waiting for something to jump out at you." Kessa exhaled through her nose, something almost like a laugh, and made a visible effort to loosen her shoulders. Old habit. From the humans? From staying alive. They stopped at a kiosk selling roasted nuts in paper cones, and Kessa bought 3 without being asked, handing them over before either sister could reach for credits. When Sarah raised an eyebrow at the ease of the transaction, Kessa just shrugged. Combat pay adds up when you've got nothing to spend it on but coffee and boot polish. "Speaking of coffee," Dovey said, nodding toward the beverage stall ahead, where a line of station workers waited for their midday drinks. "You have to see this. They've got a new machine. Overheats if you don't feed it the little metal cups just right." The canister Sarah supplied. "The what?" "Everyone calls them canisters now. Ever since the Featherfolk delegation came through and got the word wrong. Now it's stuck." Kessa looked between them, faintly bewildered, then let it go the way she seemed to let most things go now. A small pause, a small breath, and then forward motion. She ordered black. No cream, no sweetener. The barista actually blinked at her. "That's going to taste like tar," Dovey warned. "It tastes like the only thing that keeps you upright after a 30-hour shift on watch," Kessa said, and drank half the cup in one go without flinching. Sarah watched her do it with something like reverent horror. "Mom is going to ask if the humans are feeding you enough," Sarah said. "She's going to take one look at you and assume the opposite of what's actually happened. Mom can wonder." Dovey squinted at Kessa's shoulders like she was doing math in her head. "Do the humans train everyone like this, or did they just decide you personally needed reinforcing?" "Everyone gets the same program," Kessa said. "Most wash out of the heavy conditioning inside the first month. I didn't." "Why not?" Kessa considered the question longer than it seemed to deserve. "Because the first time I tried to quit, the woman running my squad sat down next to me in the mud and said she wasn't leaving until I got back up, and she meant it literally. She sat there for 40 minutes in the rain waiting. After that, it seemed rude to keep failing in front of her." Sarah laughed, but there was something underneath it that made her look at her sister a little differently. "That's not how training works back home." "No," Kessa agreed. "It isn't. She calls every week, you know. Wants to know if you're eating, if you're safe, if you found a nice soldier to settle down with." Kessa's mouth twitched. "Tell her I found several. They're all extremely large and extremely armed, and none of them are interested in settling." They spent the next several hours doing what sisters do when one of them has been gone too long, shopping for things neither of them needed, arguing over which noodle stall made the better broth, catching up on years of small station gossip that suddenly felt enormous now that they were saying it out loud to someone who'd missed all of it. Kessa let Sarah drag her through 3 clothing stores and did not complain once, even when her arms were full of bags that weren't hers. She bought Dovey a small gift from a shop with a darker aesthetic than Sarah expected her sister to notice. A woven bracelet, black and gray, nothing flashy, and waved off the thanks with visible discomfort, like she wasn't used to being thanked for things anymore, only owed them. It was somewhere in the middle of lunch, trays balanced on their knees at a corner table, that Kessa's wrist unit buzzed. She went still, read the message twice. Her jaw set in a way that made both Sarah and Dovey stop mid-bite. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "Elders," Kessa said, standing, already gathering her tray. "Here, on the station. They want a report." "A report on what?" "On the humans." Kessa's voice had gone flat, careful, the voice of someone folding something dangerous back into its case. "I'll come you when it's done. If you're new here, welcome. This channel exists for exactly one reason: to tell the stories that don't get told anywhere else. Tales of soldiers who never asked to become legends. Species who learned too late what they underestimated, and the strange, stubborn, unreasonable creatures called humans who keep showing up at the center of all of it. If a story like this one is the kind of thing you come back for, there's a subscribe button somewhere near this video, and it genuinely helps this channel keep finding stories worth telling. Now, back to Kessa. The chamber they walked her into was nothing like the mess hall bravado of the ready room briefings she'd grown used to among the human units. It was cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Long polished table, 4 elders seated behind it, like judges at a tribunal, and a single small chair set apart and lower, meant for her. She recognized the arrangement immediately. It was meant to remind her of her place. At the far end of the elders' table sat a woman in a severe gray suit. Human, Sarah guessed by the file she'd been shown en route, though something about the woman's eyes suggested this was not her first alien tribunal. Beside her, at the opposite end, a heavy-set man with a soldier's stillness and a scar along his jaw gave Kessa the barest nod as she entered, as if to say, "I see you, hold steady." Kessa Vanter, the eldest of the four, said, his fur pale and flecked at the edges with age, "Stand and give the correct posture before your elders. Or has your time among the humans erased what little discipline you once had?" Kessa's spine went rigid. For one long moment, Sarah, watching from a side gallery she'd bribed her way into with a favor from Dovey's cousin, thought her sister might refuse outright. Instead, Kessa lowered herself, knee to floor, fists to chest, forehead dipping toward the ground in the old ritual submission none of the young enlisted had performed in over a decade. It looked like it cost her something to do it. Her hands were shaking by the time she rose. "You have been summoned," the elder continued, "to give testimony on the humans and their war habits. The wave approaches. We are told it will arrive within days. We thought it prudent to gather here, as far from that front as circumstance allows, to hear directly from one of our own who has fought beside them." Coward, Kessa thought, and did not say it, though something in her face must have betrayed her, because the woman in gray, introduced only as Director Halworth, cut in smoothly before the elder could take offense. A third elder, a heavy-set male with dark gray fur going brittle at the muzzle, cleared his throat as though the correction had cost him something. "Some of us believe it beneath the dignity of the council to travel to a war footing merely to be seen standing in it. There is a difference between courage and theater, Corporal. We would ask you not to confuse the two." "I wasn't asked to judge your courage," Kessa said evenly. "I was asked to talk about the humans. I'd rather stick to that." The gray-furred elder's ears flattened slightly, but he said nothing further, and it was the pale elder who spoke next, his voice carrying the particular contempt of someone who had already decided what answer he wanted before the question was asked. "Corporal Vanter holds the rank of corporal in the Allied Human Auxiliary Forces," Halworth said, voice pleasant but edged. "She is not required to perform ritual submission on this station. This is human territory, under human protocol. I'd ask the council to remember that." The pale elder's nostrils flared, but he said nothing further on the matter. Instead, a second elder, violet-furred, sharp-eyed, introduced as Elder Mira, leaned forward with what looked almost like genuine curiosity. "There is a theory circulating in certain councils," Mira said, "that the humans overstate their ferocity, that the aggression, the willingness to hurl themselves at any threat, regardless of scale, is compensation, a mask over fear. Some believe they exaggerate their reputation to secure standing among the allied fleets, that underneath the legend they're simply as frightened as the rest of us, and louder about hiding it." Kessa stared at her. "You want to know," she said slowly, "if the reason humans throw themselves into every fight without hesitation is because they're scared." "Is it so unreasonable a question?" Mira asked. "You served with them directly. You would know better than any of us." Kessa laughed. It came out sharp, disbelieving, entirely without permission. The pale elder slammed a fist onto the table. "You dare laugh in council." "I dare laugh," Kessa said, standing without being told to, "because you've never seen them. Not once. You sit here light years from the front, guessing at the shape of something you've never touched, and you ask me if they're afraid?" Corporal, the soldier-scarred man at Halworth's side, said quietly, "A warning, not a command." Kessa kept going anyway. I have watched a human officer carry a burning comrade off a battlefield on his back while his own arm was open to the bone. I have watched a woman half my size throw herself between a wounded stranger and incoming fire without a heartbeat's hesitation, and she wasn't even from the same unit. I have seen humans divert an entire warship off its assigned route to answer a single distress beacon from a species they'd never even traded with. Tell me, does that sound like fear to you? Or does it sound like something you don't have a word for in our language because we've never had cause to build one? The chamber had gone very quiet. They are not overcompensating, Kessa said, quieter now, but no less hard. They are not hiding weakness. What you're seeing, what makes the story sound impossible to you, is that humans fight like every single person on that field matters, not just to themselves, to each other. You send soldiers to hold a line. Humans send family to hold a line, and family does not run. The pale elder opened his mouth to answer, and Halworth cut him off with a single raised hand, sharp as a blade. Let her finish. Kessa's chest was heaving now, the old wound of the forced bow still burning somewhere under her ribs, and it all came out at once. The thing she hadn't said to anyone, not even Sarah, not even in the years she'd spent training alongside soldiers, twice her mass and half her patience. I used to fight beside our own kind, she said. On Dagmar Prime, in the border skirmishes, back before any of this. We fought well. We fought correctly. And when it was over, we went our separate ways, because that's what soldiers of the same unit do. They finish the job and disperse. There was never anything more to it than duty. She looked at her hands. With the humans, it's different. After the fighting stops, they don't disperse. They check on you. They sit with you. A man twice my size once held my paw through a med-bay night because he didn't think anyone should wake up alone after what we'd been through together. I didn't ask him to. He just did it, the way you'd do it for someone you loved. Her voice cracked just slightly before she caught it. I have never once, in all my years among my own kind, felt what I feel standing shoulder to shoulder with them in a firefight. It isn't fear driving them. It's the opposite of fear. It's— She stopped, searching for the word, and it was the soldier-scarred man who supplied it, low and even, from the far end of the table. Brotherhood. Kessa nodded slowly. Brotherhood, she agreed. That's the word. That's the whole word for it. It's not a mask over terror. It's the reason terror doesn't win. When the call goes out, they arrive like thunder, not because they're too foolish to be afraid, but because being afraid together and choosing to stand anyway is the entire point of what they've built. I've spent 3 years earning a place in that. I would die in that formation before I'd ever go back to fighting the old way, correctly, cleanly, alone. Elder Mara sat back slowly, her expression unreadable. The pale elder said nothing at all, for the first time since Kessa had entered the room. You would die for them, Mara said at last. It wasn't a question. I already have in every way that matters except the last one, Kessa said. And if the last one comes, I'll meet it the same way they taught me to, standing beside someone, not alone. The silence that followed stretched long enough that Sarah, watching from the gallery with her heart in her throat, thought her sister might actually be in trouble for it, that she'd said too much, gone too far, embarrassed the delegation in front of the very people they'd been set to reassure. But then Director Halworth rose from her seat. smoothed her jacket, and addressed the elders directly. "You asked whether the humans are hiding fear behind their ferocity," Halworth said. "I've served alongside them for 11 years on 3 fronts, and I can tell you the answer plainly. They are not hiding anything. What you are witnessing when a human army moves is not fear in a mask. It is love weaponized and pointed at anything that threatens the people they've decided are theirs to protect. That includes now quite a large number of your own soldiers. I'd suggest your council spend less time debating the shape of that love and more time deciding whether you intend to stand beside it or part from it when the wave arrives." No one answered her. The scarred man, Kessa would learn later his name was Mark Doyle, station liaison, and, apparently, a man who had buried more friends than he'd ever admit to, walked Kessa out himself once the elders filed from the room, quiet and unusually pale under their formal robes. "That was either the bravest thing I've seen a recruit do in this posting," he said, lighting a cigarette with the unhurried calm of a man who had already survived worse rooms, or the single most reckless. "Possibly both. Did I make it worse?" Kessa asked. "For the others, the ones coming through training after me." Marek considered that for a long moment, exhaling smoke toward the vents. "You made it true," he said finally. "That's rare than diplomatic. I'd take true." Behind them, through the chamber's closing doors, Director Halworth stood alone for a moment, staring at the space where the elders had been sitting, her expression caught somewhere between exhaustion and something that might have been pride. 3,000 more of them are shipping out for human training within the month, she said quietly when Marek rejoined her. "Word of this is going to travel faster than either of us can manage." "Let it travel," Marek said. "Maybe it's time the rest of them heard it too." Halworth glanced sideways at him. "You really believe that? That the truth spreading faster helps anything?" "I believe a scared council makes worse decisions than an informed one," Marek said, stubbing out the cigarette against the railing. "Whatever happens when the wave hits, I'd rather they go into it knowing exactly what kind of allies they've got standing next to them. Better that than finding out in the middle of the fighting when it's too late to matter." Halworth didn't answer right away. She looked instead toward the closed doors of the chamber, where 4 elders had entered convinced of one story and left, visibly, believing another. 3,000 recruits, she said again, half to herself. "Let's hope Corporal Vander isn't the only one who comes out the other side of training like that." "She won't be," Marek said. "That's rather the point." Sarah found her sister an hour later at the same coffee kiosk from that morning, staring into a fresh cup of black brew like it held answers. "You okay?" Sarah asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Kessa let out a long breath, some of the coiled tension finally draining from her shoulders. "I will be," she said. "I said things in there I've never said out loud. Not even to myself. Was it true?" "Every word." Kessa looked up, and for the first time all day, the hard edges softened into something almost like the Sister Sarah remembered from before any of this. Before the training, before the war, before the muscles and the scars and the eyes that never stopped watching doorways. "I don't know how to explain it to you, what it feels like, what they've become to me." "Try," Sarah said gently. "I want to understand." So Kessa did over a second cup of coffee that Sarah insisted on tasting and immediately regretted, over the last of the noodles gone cold in their bowls, over the low hum of station traffic outside the window. She told her sister everything. About the burned officer who'd carried her to safety on a shattered leg rather than leave her behind. About the nights spent not alone, because someone always sat with you, whether you asked for it or not. About learning to savor a single cup of bitter coffee like it was the finest thing she'd ever tasted, because every sip was proof she'd lived to drink it. By the time she finished, Sarah was crying and didn't fully understand why, except that some part of her recognized this as the moment her sister had finally, completely, become someone new, someone forged rather than simply grown, and that whatever waited beyond the wave, whatever came next for all of them, Kessa would meet it exactly the way she'd said she would, standing beside someone, not alone. Thank you so much for spending this time with Kessa's story. If you enjoyed it, a like and a subscribe genuinely helps this channel keep bringing these tales to life. And if you've got thoughts on where Kessa's story should go next, the wave, the elders, the 3,000 recruits shipping out for training, drop them in the comments below. Until next time, take care of each other out there.